Tariffs, trade wars, and Trump. It has been a wild week, to say the least, and it's still not over. We're debuting a new segment tonight on CHEK, a panel discussion on the week that was and maybe what's next. To do that, we've got some great guests joining us. Former Saanich Mayor Frank Leonard, who's had an impressive host of jobs. We have a well-known media member in our presence, Mira Laurence. We also have Ryan Hemsley, a Canadian who works in sales, but he's been making headlines for saying he's open to Canada becoming the 51st state. Guys, thank you all for joining us today.
Oh, Paul, thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say Ryan's on my far right, but that felt a little too easy today. But well, let's jump into it because, Frank, I want to get your take. Obviously, you've been in politics. You were for some time. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
Well, certainly on the American side of the border, the chaos is something we haven't seen before in our lifetime, and the way that Canada is being treated. It's actually, I find it interesting on the Canadian side of the border, the Team Canada discipline. Amongst the premiers, which have all different points of views on just about everything, and the Prime Minister and the opposition leaders, they're sticking to a Team Canada tone. There's quite a bit of discipline in having one voice across the country. There's nuances between, say, Doug Ford and other premiers. Doug Ford's been on the American media more, but they are staying to the script. And I think that's quite impressed me. It's quite a contrast to the chaos south of the border.
A contrast to the chaos. I like that. And that Team Canada approach, or Canada First, Myra, I'd love to get your take on it because you've been in the media space for some time.
Yes.
Have you ever seen it like this before?
No, this is bizarre, and I'm a media nerd, as you know. Yeah. I watch CNN. I'm the person that goes home and watches Question Period when our Parliament is sitting, and just like really invested in what our country is doing. And I've never ever seen anything like this, and I feel like if I don't keep up daily, hourly, I'm missing something that Donald Trump is doing. And It's like today, all of a sudden, 250% taxes on dairy. And it's like, why pick a fight with us? We're just over here minding our P's and Q's, doing our business, going about our business. And now all of a sudden, we're in a trade war with our biggest ally. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, really interesting. And Ryan, I'm very fascinated to get your take because there was the Angus Reid poll that said 10% of Canadians would be okay with Canada becoming the 51st state. You've been very vocal about that. And I got to tell you, we aired a story with you yesterday. We've got a lot of emails from people saying, one, they don't just not agree with you. They're saying, you know, should you leave the country? Why don't you leave? Like, maybe your response to those people and that negativity that you're getting.
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity. There's also a lot of positivity that's finding its way towards me too, which is nice. There's a bit of a balance that they're starting to have here. Number one question I get is, why don't you pack your bags and hit the road right now, kind of thing. There is a legal process. It's not as easy as people think. There is a legal process involved with that. But with respect to what John said on the Canada First approach, there is a lot of unity with the premiers, which they're kind of towing the line. I just don't necessarily see that as a true Canada First approach. I'm not necessarily going to benefit from it. You mentioned the Angus Reid poll at 10%. The Ipsos poll, another poll, had 18 to 34-year-olds. I'm in that demographic. I'm 33. 43% of young males, the younger working class, and it's probably that high because we're less established with housing and this and that, right? So there's a lot that goes into this. Demographics are going to play a huge part in this. Me being a younger guy in the workforce, paying my way, Canada's left me behind a little bit, and that's kind of where I'm coming from. There's a lot of people who are agreeing with me, but again, like you said, a little bit of flack too at the same time.
Well, Frank, Myra, I'm interested in what you think about that.
No, Ryan. No. So
elbows up, I guess, right? Yeah.
But what formed your opinion there? I'm 49, so I'm approaching on 50. Yes, I am a homeowner, but I crossed my fingers to get into the home market. But why do you think that? Did you think about Canada being the 51st state before President Trump brought this forward?
Oh, it's always been, so I've always wanted more of an integration with Canada and the United States. That's been something I've thought about for a very long time. Now, going beyond, sorry, you were referencing kind of the housing market, what brought this up for me and stuff like that. It's been a combination of things. Young people have been living through, you know, I'm, again, 33, going back to when I was 28 in 2020. World kind of stopped for me in 2020. Whether people agree with it or don't agree with it doesn't necessarily bother me, but I'm unvaccinated, so my world changed in 2020. The way I was treated is still with me today, and that's going to be something people think about. And you know, we don't seem to care now with what we know. Things have changed, and we've learned quite a bit. But a lot of people are still feeling pretty jolted. I'm one of those people. And then in combination with that on a social scale, we have the economics, where I'm no longer viable. I can't get, as a single income earner, I don't necessarily have the opportunities that I feel, you know, I've contributed and worked for at this point. So when he floats the idea, it's something I've always been interested in. I love the United States. They're our brothers. I mean, 90% of Canadians live within an hour and a half drive of the United States anyway. We're identical. When the idea was floated, it really just ignited kind of a passion. I don't actually look at it, though, as a 51st state idea. I look at this as an ability to, if I push this 51st state idea, I'm now holding my leaders' feet to the fire, because they're doing things that I think should have been done anyway with respect to drugs, the border, immigration. We can go down the list. I'm looking at it as Donald Trump, by doing this and by threatening this, he's done a lot more for Canadians than people may realize. We're really taking action on things that should have been dealt with a little while ago. So I see this as, you know, a funny idea. Sure, 51st state, I don't see it happening, but it's a way for me to highlight that we've been really falling behind. We've been leaving a lot of Canadians by the wayside, and someone here is now forcing us to step up, and that happens to be the President of the United States.
I understand that, Ryan, but I do want to jump in just really quickly, because there's, I mean, I think one of the best parts about being Canadian is having different opinions and having respectful dialogue around that. But what you said, Donald Trump has done more for Canadians. Well, do you think he cares about you? Do you think he cares about Canadians at all?
No, nor should he. He's the President of the United States right now.
But you said he's your brother.
Americans
are our brothers. Are they really?
Yeah,
if they're picking a fight with us?
I've always looked at them that way. So I know things might have changed in the last, you know, couple of months. I've always looked at them that way. So that's how I view it. I see them as equals to me. I mean, we're separated by a border, but that's really it. We're identical, in my opinion. Donald Trump, though, in the last few months, it feels like has done a lot more for Canadians on the conservative side, at least, maybe a conservative thinker, than Justin Trudeau has. The guy is pro-road to Parliament. He's done literally nothing besides start chaos. We need to have an election. That's not happening. Well, not yet, at least, right? So I genuinely do believe some of these things. I mean, he has pressured Trudeau into bending the knee on border security. We have Black Hawks now on our border. I can't go a day without reading about a new fentanyl or drug bust, especially in British Columbia. I'm a new resident here, but it just seems to happen every second day. Ontario is just as bad, Quebec too. But no, he's highlighting these things. He's forcing our government into action. I 100% believe Donald Trump is responsible for some of these positive actions. Whether he goes about it in a way that we don't like is, you know, up for debate. That's fine. But we can't deny that cracking down on crime and drugs is a bad thing.
No, I don't think anyone's saying it's a bad thing, but I just don't think that Donald Trump has our best interests in heart. There's other things at play here. And Frank, I'd really like to get your opinion on all of this, because, I mean, when you're dealing with someone like Donald Trump, how do you deal with it? As Myra was saying, it's the goalposts seem to change, if not daily, hourly.
Well, I appreciate that the leadership generally across the country is they're not reacting to what he says now.
Right.
They're waiting till he actually signs something.
Right.
And I think that's important for the discipline on our side. He loves media. He loves the attention. You know, he's in the White House every day with the media, spouting off about something.
With his Sharpie, signing orders. Yeah.
But you can't rely on it actually happening or not being reversed the next day. So I think the leadership in our country is wise to be disciplined, and that's the term I used before, is to react to what he does and signs as a country as opposed to what he said today. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. I mean, in Ryan's case, I mean, I'm glad we're in a country that Ryan can express that point of view.
Me too.
I've been to countries, they'd lock you up.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You know, I got relatives, and when I visit them, they're afraid of their government.
Of course.
In those countries. In our country, you can express your view. I mean, you sound like you might put your name on a ballot someday. You might find it quite humbling, but you should go ahead anyway. Right? You know, that's one way to find out, to test the popularity of what you're saying. I go back to the pride I felt when the country was 100 years old. I'm that old. Right. I mean, I saw the Maple Leaf go up the first time. I've seen patriotism in this country before, but this is equal or better than anything I've ever seen.
Really?
And I mean, people in Quebec are proud to be Canadians right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
English and French getting along together.
We were hopping on planes going to Quebec in the referendum.
That's
right,
true.
To tell them we love them, and now they say they love us.
That's
Can
right.
I say this,
Please
Paul?
do. Yeah.
We do not deserve to be held to ransom, though. Like, every 30 days. Now we have April 2nd is new tariffs coming. Right. It's like every 30 days we're moving the goalpost,
Well,
How does anybody get along or get moving with their life? If you have a mortgage that you need to renegotiate, you need to do that. And it's just like, you're watching the markets, you're doing this. It's like, why does Donald Trump get to dictate what we have going on here? Like I said, we were just going about our business, doing our thing, and you picked a fight with your biggest ally. I'll never understand that.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Donald Trump as, I mean, he's got all the power in the world to do this. Forget subsidies and all of that jazz. It's the fact that we rely on the United States. At the end of the day, that's what it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this back and forth, and Trudeau would not be making concession after concession after concession. So it's probably going to happen every 30 days. This is a negotiating tactic. It's a pull away. It's a hard close. This is exactly what's happening. Every time he wants something more, we're going to be bending the knee to some degree and giving him more and more and more and more. Well, because it's time to pay the piper at the end of the day, and that's the reality of it. Voting has consequences, and Canada's in a very deep, deep rut right now, and that's the reality. Trudeau's the one who brought up our own vulnerability, and Trump decided to run with it. So I don't necessarily blame Trump. He's the president of the United States of America. We're going to suffer here because of the consequences of our vote. I believe we're in a very horrible place. So our leaders going, you know, dollar for dollar on tariffs right now is a gesture at the very best. It's not going to hurt them in the slightest. They're pulling manufacturing out of our country and bringing it back home. That kills us. Okay, there's nothing we can do to poke this bear as a little doe in the forest.
Right.
So,
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt there, but I just find it very interesting that in this whole thing of, you know, we want to be America first, Canada want to be Canada first. In doing so, Justin Trudeau's popularity has skyrocketed in the last couple of weeks.
Mark Carney's, though, because he's stepping down. So,
but it has been Justin Trudeau, and it's going, whoever it's going to be. It's interesting that dynamic and just standing up for the country has really elevated someone's popularity, where people really, on all sides, were frustrated with the Prime Minister, are now celebrating him. Look, we are running out of time. I want to get some final thoughts from everyone here. Frank, we'll start with you. Just final thoughts on the past week and maybe where we're going.
Well, next week's a big week in our country. You get a new prime minister.
Yeah, right, on Sunday.
And it'll be interesting. That in itself is interesting. I mean, we could have a woman as prime minister for all you know. But the country is going to have more change. Yeah. But I also think you'll see the appetite across the country that we need to have an election and to have a government with a mandate to take this issue on for the next 4 years.
And it would be such an important issue for so many Canadians.
So it's another mark in the history of our country next week. A new prime minister and on to an election, and we all get a chance to voice our view, and then hopefully after that election come together and continue to be Team Canada.
Nice. Myra.
I'm really disappointed that our government isn't sitting right now in Ottawa and that we're not doing anything, and that Trump obviously saw our vulnerability and took advantage of it. And okay, maybe rightfully so. So I wish that we would have a government in place that's doing the work that needs to be done. I am very impressed with the Canada Now patriotic chest pounding that we have right now. But it's I don't know. I just wish that our government was protecting us.
Whether you're on the right or the left, I think that's the number one thing people can agree on right now is maybe we wouldn't even be having these discussions if we had a leader in the House right now. Government being prorogued is a massive issue, whether you're conservative or you're liberal. I think we've got to get back to reality here. So hopefully on Sunday we can move on to the next chapter in Canada. For now, though, this is a conversation that's going to happen time and time again. It's growing sentiment. We have that Alberta delegation going down there today or whenever, and I don't think that that's going to produce anything of value, just my 2 cents. I think it's a complete waste of time, actually. But no, number one thing, whether you're left, right, in the middle, I don't care. We got to get Parliament back, period, because that's what we've got to do. Otherwise, this Canada First stuff is by the wayside.
It's cute, but it doesn't mean anything unless you're, interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's a conversation that's important, and I appreciate you all coming in to do it. And no matter how you feel about President Donald Trump, we're 1 month in to 4 years, so buckle up, I think. Ryan, Myra, Frank, thank you all for joining us today.